He's whiffed a little bit. His first pick, Cleveland Farrell, fourth overall, was not what I would have done, nor has it really paid the dividends that it needs to pay the four spot. But that was an out-of-the-box hire. Mayock is a good football mind. A little hyperbole there, a little, coach talk, a little GM talk. We're going to bang the table for this guy. Our draft board is stacked up this way. But, of course, we'll evaluate all the things you have to say. Let's focus on the one thing that the only thing that matters, all right? Everything else is rehearsed rhetoric nonsense, right? The only thing, or regurgitated nonsense, the only thing that matters there, to me, is when he says Derek Carr is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, I would love to have Mike on our show, and hopefully we'll get him on the show soon. And if he said that to us, I would say, I got you. He's your, all right, Mike, I hear you. What is your definition of what are the, like, at what point, numbers wise, are you talking? Does that include top 5, which he obviously is not? Is it top 10, which I don't believe he is? I mean, if you tell me he's top 15, I'll say he definitely is. But if you're number 13 or 14, are you really one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL? The answer is no. That doesn't mean you can't win with that player. The thing that worries me about Derek Carr, all right, is that he's had so many assets around him. You think about the young quarterbacks who have really scuffled, right? And we know them. We don't always have to just go through the list. We know who they are. Those quarterbacks invariably either have two things that they've really been and that it's out of their control. Two things they've had to deal with: turnover at the coaching staff, at least more than once, which means you've got 2 new systems, 2 new voices, 2 new approaches. That's tough for a young kid. Or you have a porous offensive line. Or in my guy's case, you actually have both. Yay! More good stuff for the Jets. But when you're running for your life, going through progressions, yeah, okay. I mean, we can sit in that dimly lit quarterback room until the roosters start crowing, and you can point out with that flashlight, you see, when you see this guy who's open. Yeah, I see him, Coach. The problem is I got 3 guys running after me, and I'm 15 yards out of the pocket, and I'm dead. All right, so I'm either throwing a pick, I'm either getting crushed, or I'm throwing it out of bounds. So I hear you. Yes, I understand conceptually what you are saying. He's open. I got it. But I have no time to get in the football. And when that see, that's the problem, too. When you deal with that for too long, and interestingly, Derek Carr's brother dealt with that. I mean, David Carr maybe would have been a pretty good quarterback. But when you are running for your life for the first 2 or 3 years of your career, now you're perceived to be an underachiever because the stats just aren't commensurate with the draft selection, all right? And a lot of that is unfair and unsubstantiated by people who don't truly know football. They pile on and they latch onto the rhetoric, but the circumstances they ignore, which bothers me for all young quarterbacks. And then all of a sudden you're 3 years in and the numbers aren't pretty and it's time to move on and you're perceived to have been a bust when in reality everything is broken down around you so quickly that you had no chance to succeed. I say all this because the only thing that's preventing me from agreeing with Mayock's assertion about Carr is that unlike the Rosens in Arizona, the Darnolds with the Jets, even the Josh Allens early with the Buffalo Bills, right? Unlike those guys, those young players, Derek Carr, the Raiders, have devoted more free agent money to their offensive line than anybody in the NFL. He's got a good offensive line. Now, is it top 3? No, I'd have to see where PFF has. I don't think it's top 3. I'd tell you this. I know it's not 22nd or 27th. It's good. And it's been good for a couple of years. And he's got a good running back in Josh Jacobs. He's got a top 3 tight end in Darren Waller. You picked up Ruggs, who's got to learn to hold on to the ball a little bit better. But at least with 4.3 speed, he's blowing the top off of defenses, and the whole field is open. Why do you think Waller's always – well, number one, he's awesome. But why do you think he's always open? Because when Ruggs plays, you got to respect that speed. You got to drop back. You got to lay off a little bit. Oh, look, they're worried about, getting beat for a 70-yard gash. There's Waller for 13. There's Waller for 19. There's Jacobs for a 9-yard run. That's how you win that's how a quarterback looks good in the NFL. And he's had all of that. There's no excuses for Derek Carr not to be good. Like, he's supposed to be good. You know what I mean? He was very good a second year before he got hurt. Now, the knock on him, and he was in the MVP race that year, to be fair to Derek, and I like Derek Carr. But, again, when Mike Mayock says he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, that's ridiculous. He's not even close to being one of the best, in my opinion, and with all due respect. Is he competent? Yes. Is he an asset more so than a detriment? No question. Can you win with him? Yes. If the Raiders tighten up that defense, they shouldn't be – see, Mike Mayock should not be – I know he was asked about this. But he shouldn't devote his energy to defending Derek Carr on what, I don't know if that was a press conference. It wasn't a show because I would have attributed it to a certain show. I guess it was just a presser or a conference call with or a Zoom with reporters. He should be devoting every ounce of energy to fixing that horrendously porous defense, because if he gets that done, then maybe the Raiders could actually do what John Gruden was brought there to do for $10 million a year, totaling $100 million. I don't know, win? You know, I mean, maybe that Derek Carr can win. I think the most obvious step this year for Derek Carr was that he finally, like the shackles were finally freed. You know, the little check down Charlie. Look at it. I mean, I know it in my heart. I know what his yards per attempt were as a kid. You know, one year was in the 5s. Then there was, you know, just incrementally bumped up in the 6s. This year it popped. So there was finally less reluctance to let it fly a little bit. And that was John Gruden's biggest beef. But, I mean, come on. Mike, I respect it, and I respect Mike Mayock. Nobody's buying that. He's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. D-Cell, before we get the update from our buddy Ack, if I said to you right now, we all know the great quarterbacks, if I said Derek Carr is the 14th best quarterback in the NFL, is that a fair tier? Is that a fair spot for him to reside?
Middle of the pack is where I see Derek Carr. I think he has the potential to be better. I think he should be better. Mm-hmm. Do I buy Mike Mayock saying he's one of the best? I don't. But I think the narrative has slowly built up for Carr over the years that he's just a guy. And I think he's more than that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Has he shown that week in and week out? No. To be fair, he has not.
Mm-hmm. He's more than a guy. I'll definitely grant you that. I never said once during that whole segment that he's just a guy. No, he's more than a guy. The question is he the man? You know, that's where you have to delineate, and I would say no. But again, based on the circumstances, the defense, etc., you fix that up, you can win with Derek. I wouldn't dispute that. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.